The Woodland Plantation in Laplace was once the center of one of the largest slave uprisings recorded in the United States. History will remember this event as the 1811 German Coast Uprising. Though the facts are well documented, the story of this revolt is often overshadowed, but there is an effort to uncover the plantation's history and highlight the significance of that night. I'm taking you to Laplace, where the project is just beginning. In the 2 decades preceding the Civil War, the United States recorded 250 slave uprisings. Some of the most famous are the Nat Turner Rebellion in 1831 and the Stono Rebellion in 1739. But in between both of these events, another much larger uprising took place on the Gulf Coast. History would dub this insurrection the 1811 German Coast Uprising. And at the center of this historical moment is the Woodland Plantation in Laplace, Louisiana.
So the city of Laplace is from Woodland, from the original footprint of Woodland. It's through its subdivision.
Dr. Joy Banner is the co-founder of the Descendants Project, a group dedicated to archiving and highlighting the history of Louisiana's African American population, specifically those who can trace their lineage back to plantations.
And it's a little dark over here.
It's dark, and this is my absolute favorite part of the house, because you can see the age, the construction, the skill.
The Woodland Plantation is now under Dr. Banner and her sister Jo Banner's stewardship, putting the property under Black ownership for the first time in history.
Tell me a little bit more about why you decided to take this property and steward it yourself.
If there's not a person that's committed to this history, then it won't get told. And so I did not want that to happen, but this site is way too important. And this community, most importantly, the history that comes along with this community.
The story of this home starts on January 8, 1811, when a group of 15 to 20 slaves gathered around the Woodland Plantation, then owned by Manuel Andre.
It was a rebellion that was led by Charles Deslondes, which we think might have been an enslaved man of Creole, of Haitian descent, who was inspired by the Haitian rebellion and also across the transatlantic, these calls for freedom. And also he is in the brutality in the world of slavery.
The initial meeting between the slaves and Manuel Andre becomes violent, ending with the death of Andre's son, Gilbert. The uprising progresses toward other plantations in the area, gathering more slaves, with Charles Deslondes as the leader.
And he organizes with other men and women that were enslaved to form a rebellion, free as many people, and march up to New Orleans and also liberate the city, or I've heard also potentially capture ships and sail to free territories.
Wow, but how does somebody living here in the river parishes organize about 500 slaves and go to New Orleans? How does something like that happen?
That's why we think the rebellion was one of the biggest, because there were men and women who came out from the swamps to join as part of it. So yeah, it was a plan for over 2 years. So there was a lot of strategy in place, but it was a very dangerous, very risky endeavor.
Banner promises that her stewardship will highlight the significance of not just the home and the people who owned it, but how the events that transpired here have affected the community of Laplace and the United States' complicated relationship with race, culture, and the uncomfortable aspects of its history.
I'm encouraged to sit down with the rest of the community and have these great historians and researchers that are doing the work and get more immersed in the history.
What is the one thing that you really want people to take away from this house?
So when people come and visit this site, I want them to understand that really the life that happens goes on outside of this site. Give them the support that they need. And I also hope that people understand how much our ancestors sacrificed for freedom and for justice, and how important it is for us as a Black community in particular to protect what our ancestors, what they died for.
Dr. Banner estimates that the site won't be open to the public for at least another 6 months, as she and her sister renovate and research the grounds. But when it does open, she promises to tell every bit of the story.